Is it safe to travel to Mexico right now? That question has never been more relevant, and never more complicated. For decades, Mexico has been North America's favorite escape. Millions of travelers arrive every year to soak up the sun, discover ancient ruins, and dive into a culinary tradition that can rival anywhere on Earth. From glistening all-inclusive resorts to small towns rich with culture, Mexico is a destination that stirs something in almost everyone. But alongside that beauty, there is a story the headlines love to repeat. Stories of cartel violence, crime, and corruption. And while those stories are grounded in real events, they rarely tell the whole truth. Because the reality is, Mexico is a vast country with regions that feel as safe as any tourist hotspot in the world, and others that demand real caution and preparation. I'm Stephen with the Travel Safety Network. Over the past 25 years, I've worked in global safety and crisis management. And one thing I've learned is that perception often drowns out perspective. The same country that produces alarming headlines can also deliver life-changing memories in places that are as secure, welcoming, and organized as anywhere you've ever visited. So today, we're going to unpack the question of safety in Mexico. What's happening now? How you can think critically about the risks, and what the world's major travel advisories are saying. Stay tuned to the end, because I'll share a piece of insight that might challenge the way you look at travel here, and perhaps even change how you approach your own trips. Let's start by acknowledging something that often gets lost. Mexico isn't a single experience. It's almost the size of Western Europe. The reality of travel in Cancun is not the same as travel in the highlands of Guerrero. A week in a luxury resort on the Riviera Maya is not the same as venturing into remote mountain towns where the state has less control. The key to understanding safety in Mexico is knowing exactly where you plan to go, how you plan to get there, and whether you have realistic expectations about what's happening on the ground. This year, millions of travelers will touch down in Cancun, Puerto Vallarta, Los Cabos, and Playa del Carmen without incident. They'll spend their days lounging by the pool, snorkeling in turquoise water, or exploring well-curated day trips to Mayan ruins. For many, this is the Mexico they know. Friendly staff, gated resorts, and efficient tourism infrastructure. In these zones, local authorities and the tourism sector have strong incentives to maintain order and protect visitors. It's not an accident that these areas remain some of the most heavily policed and economically prioritized corridors in the country. But the headlines you see about violence in Mexico don't usually come from these resorts. They often emerge from regions where drug cartels are vying for control. Border areas, parts of the interior, and pockets of the Pacific coast. Even in tourist-friendly states, there can be sudden flare-ups of violence between organized crime groups. These incidents rarely target foreign tourists directly, but sometimes innocent bystanders get caught in the crossfire. It's this duality that makes Mexico unique, and why it's so important to separate perception from fact. The U.S. State Department currently divides Mexico into individual state-level advisories. Some states, like Baja California Sur and Quintana Roo, where Cabo San Lucas and Cancun are located, are ranked with more moderate cautions, encouraging travelers to exercise increased awareness but not advising against travel altogether. Others, like Colima, Guerrero, Michoacán, Sinaloa, and Tamaulipas, carry much stronger warnings, including recommendations to avoid travel due to crime and kidnapping. Canada's Global Affairs Office issues similarly differentiated guidance, noting that while many resort areas remain safe with normal precautions, other regions pose significant risks to personal security. The UK's Foreign Office echoes this perspective, and Australia's Smart Traveller platform also highlights the importance of understanding which region you're planning to visit. If you've never been to Mexico before, this patchwork of advisories can feel overwhelming. You might wonder, how can a country be both safe and unsafe at the same time? The answer lies in understanding how power is distributed. Large cities and resort zones often have well-resourced police, strong tourism infrastructure, and consistent government presence. Smaller towns or remote regions may not. That means that while a resort in Cancun is statistically far safer than many US or European cities, a trip into the Sierra Madre can be a very different calculation. Travelers also need to consider how they move around. Many of the incidents that affect tourists happen on roads connecting cities and regions. Highway robberies, carjackings, and roadblocks by criminal groups are not unheard of in parts of the country. If you plan to explore beyond the resort areas, it's crucial to understand local guidance and to consider traveling with reputable tour operators rather than venturing out alone. At the same time, it's important not to let fear rob you of a truly rewarding experience. In cities like Mérida, San Miguel de Allende, and Oaxaca, travelers consistently report feeling safe, welcomed, and inspired. These are places where culture thrives, where neighborhoods still feel like communities, and where tourism is woven thoughtfully into daily life. For many, these cities are among the most enriching travel experiences anywhere in the Americas. It's also worth acknowledging that safety is about more than crime statistics. In some places, the most common hazards are not violence, but rather issues like food and water hygiene, sun exposure, and road safety. While resort areas maintain high standards, travelers in smaller towns should be aware of where their food and water come from, and always exercise caution when renting vehicles or riding in taxis that are not affiliated with reputable companies. This is why government advisories often sound so cautious. They're not designed to scare you out of traveling. They're meant to give you the information you need to make confident, informed decisions. And as someone who has spent years in risk management, I can tell you that the most successful trips happen when travelers engage with this information proactively rather than reactively. One important point I want to emphasize is that the risk profile in Mexico is dynamic. Just because a region has been safe in the past does not guarantee it will remain that way indefinitely. That's why in the coming weeks, I'll be releasing a series of videos that break down safety in specific destinations: Cancun, Tulum, Mexico City, Los Cabos, and more, so you can get tailored guidance for the places you care about most. If you're planning a trip, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss those updates. So, is it safe to travel to Mexico? The answer is that it depends on where you're going, how you prepare, and what kind of experience you're looking for. If you're booking an all-inclusive resort in a well-established tourist corridor, the risks are low, and you're likely to feel as secure as you would in many other popular destinations. If you plan to explore more remote regions, it requires a different level of planning, situational awareness, and sometimes the willingness to change your itinerary if local conditions warrant it. And that brings me to the surprise I promised at the start of this video. Despite the narrative that Mexico is dangerous across the board, many of its tourism regions have been recognized internationally for safety standards that surpass comparable destinations. Quintana Roo and Baja California Sur, home to some of the country's most popular resorts, receive millions of visitors each year, with remarkably low incident rates involving tourists. In fact, the majority of travelers never encounter anything more serious than a sunburn or an overzealous souvenir vendor. That's the real story of Mexico. It is neither as dangerous nor as perfectly safe as some would have you believe. It is a country of contrasts, places where caution is warranted, and others where you can relax and savor the experience without fear. And it is precisely this complexity that makes travel here worth considering, worth researching, and ultimately worth experiencing for yourself. I'm Stephen with the Travel Safety Network. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone planning a trip to Mexico. And don't forget to join me in the next videos where I'll be breaking down safety region by region so you can travel smart, travel confident, and travel inspired. Until then, stay informed, stay curious, and remember, safety is your travel superpower.